kind of like going back in the 80s, the crack epidemic hit DC harder than probably most of all the cities in the US. What was that era like growing up in that time?
I tell people all the time, because when you think in hindsight, you think about all the things you could have did differently. And I also I let people, I advise people on, your brain development. We were kids. A lot of people, I see people that criticize us and say, man, y'all was making all that money. Why didn't y'all put it into real estate or do this and do that with the money? And I always say, well, do you have a kid? You have a child? And they say, yeah, and they say that child is 13, 14, 15. What do you think your child at 13, 14, 15 would do if you gave him $10,000? What do you think he's going to do with the money? You think that child is going to go find a real estate investment? No, they're going to buy the things that they like or they see, their peers doing or, video games or food or spending on girls or clothes. It's going to be stuff that it's not going to be an investment. You know what I mean? So I always try to help people out reliving that because that's what we were. We were 13, 14, 15. We had access. We didn't have to put in a lot of work. So, when we talk about those stories, especially to the younger generation, I want them to understand, I don't want them to think that we had to do all this extra stuff. We could be on the basketball court, we could come out of our house, and you had older dudes that put money in our pocket or say, hey, I'm gonna give you this package. Bring me back this amount of money, and you can have the rest. That's how easy it was. It was the drugs were so easy to get. You didn't have to go find them; they found you. So that's why we all had money. Now you had to. Some people that wanted to take it to the next level. I was the type. I was too respectful and fearful of what my mother would think about me. You know what I mean? So even though I had the access to whatever I wanted and I could take things to the next level anytime I had wanted to, I wasn't going to do it because I don't know what I would say to my mother. You know what I mean? That's some of the difference now. Some of the young kids don't even have a mother or father to to be able to have that fear. But it was just and that's what we did. We would get our summer youth check working in the summer youth program and flip the summer youth check, $125. I'll take the $125 and before the weekend, I got me $1,000 in my pocket because I didn't use that $125 to buy some drugs, some crack, some rocks, and flip that. And I would do that every week. You know what I mean? So, and when I got old enough, I always kept a regular job as well. You know what I mean? So I was happy. I was satisfied with that. But you know what I mean? Of course, I got offered, hey, you want to do this? You did something bigger. No, it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me.
What did you have? I'm sure you had a lot of friends, who probably took it to the next level.
Oh, yeah.
What was it like kind of seeing them, go on and do things, be, big names when it came to the drug game and everything?
I was happy for them. They got they was living. They were having a good time. And the girls, they was partying, they was buying the cars, either they was traveling, they were living life. And at the time, that was just the norm. Like they were driving their school, we were in high school, 10th, 11th grade, you had the homies coming up to school with their BMWs and Benz and stuff like that, but it was just normal. It wasn't 300 Zs and stuff like that. It was normal to us. It wasn't something that we, said, well, damn, man, they doing all that, man. They gonna get in some kind of trouble. You know what I mean? And they weren't getting in trouble. And I'm gonna tell you why they weren't getting in trouble, because the police at the time, a lot of people, look over, even don't know this information, or they look over it or forgot. But the police at the time, and I'm talking about MPD, our regular police, not the feds or anything like that, they didn't bother people. They didn't bother you because there was no violence, really. You know, it might be some fights, an occasional stabbing, stuff like that. People getting shot and stuff like that. It really wasn't happening. That was, if somebody got shot back then, it was like unbelievable, man. It affected the whole city. You know what I mean? But the police weren't bothering you. They knew what you were doing. And then they come down, like, let's say you on the block. Let's say you on Kennedy Street. The police will come down, you know, in uniform. Man, you know, some of them know your mom, man. You know, man, you can't be down here like that. I know what you're doing, Slim, but you gotta, man, keep it moving, because, you know, but that was it. That's as far as it went. You hard-headed, you go right back down there the next day, and they would keep doing the same thing. But what the police were forced to have to do something when all the violence started happening, the killings, because, you know, they were getting pressure from up top. And then that's when the feds would get involved. That's when the jump outs and the task force and stuff like that started coming along. And, you know, they just couldn't allow us to keep killing each other, and there's no repercussions and stuff like that. But before that, that's why people were able to make so much money, because as long as there wasn't no violence, you could get money all day long.
Kind of, you know, piggybacking off of that, like, and started in the 90s. That's when, like, DC pretty much became like the murder capital.
Man, that was the downfall in the 90s. And I always say it, and then when 1990 hit, literally 1990, it seemed like it was just the beginning of the end. You know, I got shot in 92. You know, good buddy of mine in 94, that's Benny Lee Lawson, rest in peace. One of my best friend, you know, he ran up in the police headquarters. You know what I mean? He was at my house the night before that. You know, we were at school, we were at UDC together. He was tutoring me in math. You know what I mean? That was my buddy. You know what I mean? But hey, that's how it was. Like, it's some random situations, you know what I mean? But that was all, those 90s. I lost so many homies in the 90s. I mean, from 91 on up. One of my first a death that affected me the most was a guy that I went to junior high school with, Mark Tompkins, football player, quarterback, athlete, man. He was a great dude, funny guy, you know, always joning. I couldn't believe it, you know, when we heard the news he had got killed, you know what I mean? It was like, that's what I was saying early on, those things affected us bad. I mean, I couldn't shake it for a minute, you know what I mean? So that's how those 90s, I got bad memories from the 90s, so every time you know, and I'll post things and talk about it, you know, I'll tell stories about the 90s, but really, it wasn't nothing nice. It wasn't nothing nice in those 90s, and I was kind of glad when, you know, that era kind of really ended, you know what I mean? We had a nice run, you know what I mean, when we were younger, from those mid-'80s on up, but it was bad. The city it got ugly. It got ugly.